areas between London and Birmingham on the planned route of that high-speed rail link, HS2, gathered at the House of Commons yesterday, Houses of Parliament rather. They were there to hear more about the plans and to share their views with MPs. Well, our reporter Willy Gilder travelled down with them. We'll hear more from him after 8 o'clock. But here's a little sample of what some of them thought before the meeting had taken place.
John Lee, Southam Area Action Group. I'm the chairman. I'm here to see what the government are going to say to our questions. What answers we should get. There are 32 MPs in attendance, and we are hoping to get them to listen to some of the work and research that we've done to prove the unviability of HS2.
My name is Joan Lee. I'm a county councillor with Warwickshire County Council and a borough councillor at North Warwickshire. I cannot understand how such a very big project has been brought through, which was only started in January 2009. I think there is a lot of further consideration to do on this matter, if it goes through at all.
So I'm Sawbridge, I'm the County Councillor of Brackley West, and this covers some of the area affected by HS2, and I'm here basically to speak against the proposal and to learn at this particular meeting. There's a lot of public feeling because of the blighting of property prices. People can't sell their houses already, particularly in the Greatwith area and also to the north of Brackley. And so it is affecting people who would like to move, but possibly don't necessarily have to move. And of course, none of the people who want to buy houses are now looking round these properties.
My name's Martin Tett. I'm the Cabinet Member for Strategic Planning and Environment at Buckinghamshire County Council. I think the current coalition government have inherited Labour's old failed prestige project of trying to get a high-speed rail link between London and initially Birmingham. They're going to be spending something like £32 billion at a time when the finances of the country are in a terrible mess to shave something like 20 to 25 minutes off the journey time between London and Birmingham. And we just think that's the wrong set of priorities.
There you go, some of the thoughts of people ahead of that meeting at the Houses of Parliament yesterday. 130 or so people from around Northamptonshire and Warwickshire area and Buckinghamshire travelling down to London. The meeting was arranged by the South Northamptonshire MP, Andrea Leadson. As I was saying yesterday, a lobby of Parliament about the plans for a high-speed rail link the government says should be built between London and Birmingham. Around 130 people, together with their MPs, were there to hear from a number of experts. The day was organised by the South Northamptonshire MP, Andrea Leadson, and Willy Gilder was the man who travelled down on the train for them. He went down on the low-speed link.
I don't think it's fair to say low-speed, medium speed.
I think it's I think it's a good little service, that is.
It is a good service.
It
would be nice if the seats could be made person-sized.
Are they very upright, aren't they?
They're very upright and really rather narrow. But yeah, not a bad service.
Aside from that, how did the day go?
Very interesting meeting actually at Portcullis House, which is the modern building next to Parliament. There were people there. I think we've earlier heard from folks from Buckinghamshire, from Oxfordshire, people all the way down the line. Quick reprise. What is being suggested is there should be a line built between London and Birmingham on a straight line, really, between West London and Birmingham, cuts through the Chilterns, through Northamptonshire, through Warwickshire, and it could see trains running something like 14 times an hour at 225 miles an hour.
What would be the terminus in London Paddington?
I think so. I'm not absolutely certain.
It doesn't matter. It's a trivial point.
It's a bit through Northamptonshire that we're bothered about. This whole day was organised by Andrea Leadson. I put it to her that the government seemed to want to have it both ways. They were saying they're going to have a consultation on this. At the same time, one of the government ministers early on in the meeting said they wanted to put a bill before Parliament, before the end of this parliamentary session, so sometime in the next 5 years, about the whole scheme. Here's Mrs Leadson.
And obviously it's very difficult. The government has to have a plan and stick to that plan. On the other hand, this consultation does include consultation on the whole principle of high-speed rail. So there is therefore the chance that they might decide not to go ahead with it. And there is a precedent. You know, the third runway at Heathrow was absolutely going full steam ahead, and this party decided it wasn't necessary, and so isn't going ahead with it. So I think that there is a chance that people will change their minds in government, but local people really do need to keep writing to the Department for Transport, writing to me, making their voices heard.
Did we learn anything new, particularly about the plans?
Well, I think I certainly did. I mean, I've now been to lots of meetings about this, where we've heard from lots of people who are, I suppose, to be frank, primarily bothered about the effect upon their homes. If you discover your home's going to be demolished, that's quite important, really. But all the time at these meetings, people have said to me, well, the business case doesn't stack up. And I've been thinking, I'm not sure entirely what you mean by that. Well, yesterday we heard from a gentleman who had been the planner for Intercity, when it was British Rail, back in the 1970s, and he went into some detail suggesting that there weren't the number of travellers that HS2 are suggesting there will be for this service. He was saying that domestic air travel, rather than growing in numbers, is in fact in decline. And it was very interesting what he was suggesting, saying that the business case isn't really there for high-speed rail. We also heard from Professor Mike Geddes of Warwick University. Now, he suggests that if what you do is build a high-speed system that isn't really a network, it's just got a few stations, what's going to happen is that regions are going to lose out. The government says this is good for the north. He says it doesn't work that way. Here he is.
The point is that if you connect places up to each other more effectively and, as it were, they join up their local economies, what's going to happen is that the biggest and strongest is going to get the most benefit. So in terms of our country, what that means is if you join London up with Birmingham and Manchester and Leeds and so on, that's going to be primarily to the benefit of London. Now, of course, this is the polar opposite of what the government is trying to argue.
Or, as we heard on this programme yesterday, Birmingham, because the Birmingham Chamber of Commerce are very enthusiastic about this. By the way, the terminus, we're reliably informed, because it slipped your memory for a moment, somebody's very kindly phoned to say, subject to the consultation, the London terminus for the high-speed line would be Euston. The Birmingham city centre station would be at Curzon Street, which is a new one on me.
Well, Euston was pretty busy yesterday, so goodness knows what
it is the busiest station on the planet, I feel, sometimes when you go there. But anyway, back to the issue of yesterday. The government themselves, were they represented? Because, and I made this point, yes, Andrea Leadson, the new Conservative MP for South Northamptonshire, new coalition government, David Cameron, we believe, still in favour of it.
Mrs. Leadson, before she was elected, actually, I was at a public meeting in Brackley where she was asked the question, will you defy the government whip on this if it comes to that? And she said yes. Mm-hmm. She has stuck her neck out a very long way on this. Not just her, actually, because the Speaker of the House of Commons, Mr. Burko, is, of course, MP for Buckingham. Mm-hmm. He was there yesterday. He gave the government a very hard time in that he was questioning Philip Hammond, the Transport Minister, very carefully about this. It was a fascinating moment. Unfortunately, I don't think my recording of it's come out all that well, but we'll have a listen to that later. So yes, Theresa Villiers and Philip Hammond, Transport Ministers, were there. They were very keen to say everything is open for consultation, but at the same time they were saying, actually, we do think there's a need for a high-speed network. There could be an announcement about this in some shape or form today.
Really?
We're not sure exactly what's going to be said, but the government have said consistently they're committed to a high-speed network. Protesters say, yeah, OK, but that shouldn't necessarily mean a separate high-speed line that goes through the Chilterns and through Northamptonshire. So lots and lots of argument about that.
Yeah, I think the government should just be committed to making the current railway system better. I mean, that's the bottom line.
One of the points that was made, actually, we still don't have...
33 billion would make a lot of difference.
We don't have electrification of the line that goes through Kettering and Wellingborough. No. So, yes, there are lots of things that could still be done on the existing network.
Anyway, what happens next then? You said maybe some news
Well,
today.
As I say, there could possibly be some news today. We're not exactly certain about that. The government have said that they're wanting to launch a consultation probably by the end of this year, and then the ball will start rolling very slowly indeed. I want to leave the final word to Sir Christopher Prideaux, who lives in the village of Quainton, which is in Buckinghamshire.
We all have wishes, but we can't afford them. And it does very much seem that the minister's the only boy in the nursery who hasn't got a train set.